Lacawac Sanctuary is truly a sight to behold. With hiking trails and a pristine lake, it is one of the area's must-see locations. It supports a great mission and has an interesting history. Let's take a look at Lacawac Sanctuary's past, present, and future.
Lacawac is a nature preserve, environmental education center, and also a research facility. We do public education programs, K-12 education programs, field trips for students. We go into the classrooms for various school districts. We do service multiple county area, not only Wayne County, but Monroe, Pike, Lackawanna, some Luzerne sometimes. We're open to the public for people to come hike and enjoy the 550 acres that's Lacawac.
The story of Lacawac Sanctuary can be traced back to William Penn. Through his role as Pennsylvania's first governor, he sought to map out his newly acquired territory. Through deals with local indigenous peoples and settlers, he was able to shape out the new Pennsylvania. In his colony, he sought to carve out tracts of land for himself and his family to lease to settlers. The largest in what would become Wayne County was the Wallenpaupack Manor. The manor would later change hands post-Revolution and wind up in the possession of James Wilson, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Upon his death, his lands were separated, and the tract that contained what would become Lacawac Sanctuary was eventually purchased at the turn of the century by local coal mogul William Connell. Connell thought the land would be the ideal spot for a vacation home, so he set about building his residence in 1903. The property was state-of-the-art for its time. It featured ventilated porches, gas lighting, and an on-site ice house for keeping ice at hand all summer long. Eventually growing tired of making the long and arduous trek back and forth to their vacation spot, William's family sold the property shortly after his death in 1913. The buyer was Colonel Lewis Arthur Watrous of Scranton, a businessman who, among other projects, spearheaded the construction of the hydroelectric dam creating Lake Wallenpaupack. He and his family recreated at Lacawac for many years. In 1946, Colonel Watrous's grandson, Arthur, purchased the property and began restoring it to his childhood memories. By the early 1950s, Arthur had taken an interest in the ecological movement and realized that his lake at Lacawac and the surrounding woodlands were the ideal place for research because they had always been kept pure and clean. By 1966, Lacawac Sanctuary was born.
We've been studying the Lake Lacawac since really the 1960s. And since the 1990s, we've had sensors on the lake. So there's this long-term data that they refer to it as. Really scientific-wise, it's this continually monitoring of the lake, taking parameters like pH levels, oxygen levels, nitrogen levels, rainfall into the lake, the temperature of the lake. And so we are basically monitoring these parameters throughout the entire year and noticing how things are changing. The lake itself, because it is 13,000 years old, and because the owners of the property really controlled, they ran what was then a septic system made out of clay piping outside of the watershed for the lake, protect the lake so that it was healthy, clean drinking water. Since then, we've controlled the entire watershed of the lake. So nothing has really polluted the lake. And really, since the glaciers receded, it was only used by man for swimming, sustaining life, that kind of stuff, fishing. So there was never motorized boats in the lake. Nothing ever polluted the lake, such as fertilizer. This is why it's considered one of the most pristine glacial lakes in the United States. In the last couple of years, I hired some really good environmental educators who really have developed programs for K to 12 grades. What makes us special is that we're a research station. So we are different than just a normal nature center that offers a K to 12 field trip, because we incorporate science into all of our field trips. We have a class called Advanced Water Ecology for high school students, where they actually do some of the techniques that our researchers are doing. They're taking samples of water, going under microscopes, they're testing the water, they're taking temperatures, they're coming up with hypotheses of what do they expect to find from this. And so they are monitoring the lake like the scientists monitor it. And that's something that you can't really get in other nature centers. So all of our programs are meant to get kids out into nature and really learn the science of why things are happening. So the sanctuary's mission statement is really simple. It's 3 words. It's research, education, preservation. We're doing research on the environment, on the forest, on especially Lake Wallenpaupack. Education-wise, we do public programs, as I mentioned earlier. We are preserving the land for the use of the public to recreate on. So in a sense, Wallenpaupack has a very diverse mission in 3 words.
Lacawac Sanctuary perfectly combines nature, recreation, and science, and it's here, waiting just for you.
And if you like Wally Life, please click the subscribe button below.